This is my build video for kind of a fancy loft that my son and I built for his bedroom. We were a little heavier duty than you traditionally build, and I tried to incorporate some different features to make it more like a piece of furniture. The headboard's a little bit more intricate with some hidden compartments. We got a magnetic reading light up top and some recessed receptacles in both the top and the desk. And then what would a modern kid's bed be without some LEDs to light up the underside there? I did my whole plan there in CAD, so I have a parts diagram, parts list, material layout, and ultimately a cost estimate for the entire build, and it ended up being a little over $300 for the whole thing. So we started building the footboard, and we built that out of squared off 2x8s and inner supports that were a little bit shallower, so I had a 1/4-inch reveal on each side. Each piece was supported by glued up and construction screwed supports inside each of the steps there, and we did that to kind of counteract the cupping that we would get with these larger boards. We built it upright, which ended up being kind of a mistake because the thing did rack a little bit, but piece by piece we put it together, checking our measurements and making sure that everything ended up parallel and square. And then where those screws were, I countersunk them when we put them in, plugged them, and we sanded them flush with a sander. Even though I squared everything off, I did go over my final edges with an 1/8-inch round over with my router. Next, I built the frame of the desktop, did it with biscuits and didn't use lap joints, but it was fine. It was going to serve as a placeholder. Then we built the rails, which were just composed of squared off 2x6 and a 2x4. And then we started on the headboard with 2x10s and internal supports there. Again, same thing, 1/4-inch reveal on the side. Learning our lesson from before, we did assemble this thing flat on the ground to try to keep the thing from racking a little bit. So we built one side at a time, but then when we went for final assembly, everything was laid flat, and I kept big clamps on it to make sure that everything stayed square and parallel to itself. Alright, at this point, with everything roughed out, it was time for a dry assembly, so we put it together in the shop here with the rails, and we even put in kind of the framed out desktop there, give us an idea how everything was going to sit together. And here you can see kind of the rough outline of the overall shape of the loft. Now for the detail work. So right now I'm building the desk drawer. So I used some rabbet joints and some dados for a floating bottom, and the drawer ended up being pretty big. It's almost like 36 inches wide, so that's why I had to have a partition in the middle, and that way the floating bottom wouldn't sag, so the masonite actually gets screwed into the partition from the underside, and I glued that thing up with a bunch of bar clamps. For the desk, like I said, I glued that up with squared off 2x6s, and then I put some cleats on the inside, and I set in a piece of 1/2-inch plywood as my desktop. And then that whole thing I was going to leave natural, so after I routed it up, I put about 4 or 5 coats of polyurethane. Once that was dry, I recessed in a chunk there for a recessed outlet later. Using pocket screws, I attached the panel for the underside of the desk. I also roughed out a frame for the drawer face there to receive the drawer. Now for the secret panels. I tried a couple different things. I tried to get cute and make these little pegs that 3D printed recesses. It didn't work. The whole point was to make it so you couldn't tell the panel open, but it didn't open at all like this. So instead, piano hinges were the only way to go, and a pillow kind of covers them up so you don't really know they're there. So then this was kind of the best solution. It's probably what I should have done from the very beginning. You can see that these open fully to get access to the secret compartments. Assembling the headboard then, again, a bunch of bar clamps, construction screws, plenty of glue. And I also secured the top. I took it off later because I wanted the top to be natural and everything else got painted. But you can kind of see how everything goes together, and just some scab pieces on the underside to receive the back. We painted the thing kind of a royal blue, but that kind of got vetoed, so we went over for more of a navy blue, which is better anyways. The mattress pad, I did put a quick coat of poly on it just to kind of seal it. Now we're ready for final assembly. The first thing was to put the secret panel doors back on, which I had off for paint, and I did trim those out with some 3/4 trim pieces there. The recessed panels for the headboard then gives them something to plug in up top, and then those panels close with magnetic push latches that you can just kind of push on, and then the door will open for you. There was another recessed receptacle with USB ports, so we put on the desk. Everything gets powered by a power strip inside that panel and the headboard. Could have hardwired it, but this was fine, and then that way we had everything plugging in. And then we put a magnetic reading lamp up top, and then sealed up the back with some masonite to kind of keep everything tight. Erecting it's pretty self-explanatory, right? The headboard, the footboard, and that rail fit inside. We used 3/8 carriage bolts for 3.5 inches long, washers, and just single, regular hex nuts to put everything on. 2 at each joint, and then we also had that support rail that went across the bottom. That also provided a surface for the desk to sit on top of. It was a little bit of a tight fit, but once we got it in there and squared everything up, it was good. 2 more carriage bolts and a couple pocket screws from the underside to secure that support to the desktop. And then for the desk drawer, 20-inch drawer slides allowed that drawer to slide in and out real nice. And now he's got room for all of his stuff in there. Overall, I think the thing turned out nice. I like the kind of natural contrast against the dark blue. Like I said, I tried to make those hidden panels like a fun little feature there. I guess they're not that hidden, but not super obvious. And then again, you can see all the components inside. On the headboard, he's got plenty of room then for his reading lamp. And I put this little swivel. It was a bearing I pulled off of something, so that thing can kind of flip back and forth. And like I said, I have those receptacles for an alarm clock or whatever else you need to charge up top there. Underneath, there's the LED strip, so I put LEDs, and then I bought that strip diffuser, so that way it kind of goes underneath the whole thing. And then he's got room for his desk, a chair, and whatever else he needs. It was a fun project. I encourage you to build stuff with your kids if you can get them into the shop with you, and I appreciate you watching this video.